Greetings, fellow humans. I'm MartianBuu, and today I want to talk to you about Standard and Wild. Standard is Hearthstone's rotating constructed format, and Wild is Hearthstone's eternal constructed format. But have you ever asked yourself why there are two formats in the first place? A rotating format periodically removes cards from the available pool, and an eternal format keeps all its cards from a point forward. Most card games have a rotating format and at least one eternal format. They don't do this just because. When a game launches, they start with one format and add more as the need arises. At launch, you only need one. With few cards available, new cards see play easily. After a while, there are so many cards around that the bar for a new card to see play is pretty high. If only a few new cards are playable, then there isn't much incentive to buy the new set. The company doesn't make money, and players get bored because there's nothing new to play with. On top of that, the more cards that are available, the more a new player has to learn before they can play the game comfortably. So to keep the game new, interesting, and accessible, they remove older cards from the primary format. New cards don't have to compete with old cards if the old cards aren't there. You could just power creep new cards and nerf or ban older cards until the new cards see play. That's more work and makes players who like their older cards less happy, while also causing a lot of number inflation. It's just not a good solution. If you only power creep and barely change older cards, the game gets fast and uninteractive very quickly. Rotating cards out of the primary format is just the easiest way to keep the game fresh. Eternal formats exist to respect your investment. It's a bummer to buy cards and then have them become literally unplayable after a set time. By having a secondary eternal format, there's always a place for you to play the cards you've bought, even if it's not meant to be your main experience. So that was some fun trivia, but why should you care? It matters when we talk about balancing the separate formats. Paper card games don't have to worry about how balancing a card in one format will affect the others because they have their own problem. The cards can't be edited. Changing the official text on a paper card just leads to a game where you can't trust that a card does what it does based on its text. If you can't change what a card does, the remaining option is to remove it with a ban when it causes problems. As long as you're banning anyway, you can balance a card for a format without affecting the other ones. If a card is too much in an eternal format but fine in your rotating format, you simply ban it from the eternal format and everything is fine. Hearthstone is a digital game, and in digital you can change what a card does. Usually this is better. A banned card functionally no longer exists, so it's better to make it do something worse than nothing at all. Where that creates a problem is with multiple formats. If a card is changed in one format because it's causing problems, it's changed in the others as well. Cards in Hearthstone are designed and sold to players for Standard. Blizzard is very clear about this. The reason Standard and Wild exist is so that they can design cards without having to balance them around every card that's ever existed. Changing what a Standard card does because of how it interacts with Wild undermines the purpose of the two formats. Blizzard has done this a couple of times before with Dark Lair and Hysteria. Blizzard can also see the future because they're making it. In both cases, the cards were eventually nerfed again for Standard, which makes me think that they were willing to change them for Wild because they expected them to be power level problems in Standard later. After having to do this a couple times in just a few months, I think they foresaw this becoming more and more of an issue as time goes on. With Wild having an ever-increasing card pool, the likelihood that a new card would break it is increasing alongside it. This is where bans start to make sense again. While in a vacuum nerfs are better, having Wild bans allows them to continue designing cards for Standard without making Wild an unplayable mess or adding unnecessary confusion. A common suggestion I've heard is to have multiple versions of cards across different formats. If a card is causing problems in Wild, nerf just the Wild version of it, and leave the card untouched in Standard. This is a clunky solution that only benefits the most entrenched players. Players memorize cards by their pictures and don't reread the text every time they add it to a deck. If you're used to a card behaving a certain way in one mode, it should also work that way in another. There is no perfect solution for everyone, but this one cleanly allows both formats to work as intended while targeting the appropriate cards for balance changes. Wild problems need Wild solutions. If Wild needs a nerf, it should come from a Wild exclusive card. If a Standard card is the only good solution, then the Standard card should be banned until it rotates. Bans are also somewhat misunderstood from what I've seen, and I think a big part of that is because none of the cards that have been banned in Wild have rotated to Wild yet. The plan with those cards is to reassess their impact on Wild when they rotate. If they would still cause problems, that card will be changed at that point and unbanned either way. Bans are only a good solution when a Standard card has to be changed for Wild. There is no reason to ban a Wild exclusive card. If a Wild exclusive is causing problems in Wild, you just nerf that card. I wanted to make this video because I see a lot of wild balance suggestions that work against the purpose of the two modes and don't properly utilize the balance tools that Blizzard has set up. If you found this interesting, remember to like and subscribe and comment if you'd like to see more videos like this from me. I hope you enjoyed, and thanks for watching.